Keep you waiting, everyone. I understand we're tight for time. I'll start with just some quick introductory remarks and then happy to take questions. We've just had an opportunity to get a better look at some of the extensive damage as a result of really what is a 1 in 100 year flood. Extensive flooding in farmland areas, obviously damage to transport links. The number one priority at the moment is reinstating those transport links with the bridge just south of Ashburton out of action. Work is underway as we speak to try and reinstate some of those alternative routes. At the moment we're being advised that those should be reinstated by the end of today, but extensive work does need to happen in order for that to be successful. In terms of the bridge itself, still yet unknown as to the timeframes for that reopening. But as you can imagine, with the flood levels where they have been, the fact that we have piles that are affected, it is probably going to take a bit of time even to make that assessment. 500,000 has come through from the Minister, given that this is now being lifted to a medium adverse weather event. That means that funding can flow through to those who are able to directly on the ground support particularly our farmers who have been heavy hit. We want it to be practical support to aid with the recovery. There's also the 100,000 that's gone to the Mayoral Relief Fund, and mayors will be able to access that for any discretionary needs in the recovery as well. Happy to take questions. No, early days at the moment. Even when speaking with those on the ground, they're still undertaking a bit of a needs assessment of just how many are affected, the degree of the impacts. For some, it'll be that they've lost some of their winter feed. For others, it'll be considerable remedial damage. We could see just from the air, a lot of broken trees, shingle all through properties that will need to be cleared alongside fencing damage and the like.
What supports are in place for people who are stranded on either side of the bridge?
Number one priority for us at the moment is to reinstate transport links. At the moment, of course, the bridge is the fastest route, but at the moment there is no route. So we've got to reconnect those who are disconnected with alternate routes. That's the focus. And then we come back in to see how long it will take us to repair the bridge.
And that'll be in place by the end.
We're being advised that the alternate route will be in place by the end of the day. Even that, though, that is a significant diversion. So we've been talking with the Mayor about what alternatives might exist in the meantime while that main bridge is being fixed. He's already said that he thinks that main bridge will take some time to get back up and running.
I know people in the Tinwell side
Yes.
running out of food at the supermarket.
So look, as we've said, the message we've had today is that that alternate route, whilst being longer, is likely to reconnect those who are currently disconnected from Ashburton. That means food will be able to be brought back through shelves restocked in that area as well.
And you had an aerial view today. What was your response to seeing the damage?
Look, from that aerial view, you just get a sense of the scale. It is quite devastating. In some areas, there's a lot of work for us to do alongside farmers to support them in their recovery. A big clean-up job lies ahead of us.
Can you a little bit more detail on that from your perspective in the air? What did you see and can you describe that for us?
Alongside just seeing the scale of the flooding, was the fact that you could see that winter feed had been affected. You could see that from the air. You could see how for some farms they'll be completely cut off from even accessing winter feed. You could see damage to fencing and, of course, the impact on transport links. So a major focus for us, get the transport links back up and running, do the work that's required to try and get the rivers back into the places they're meant to be, and then just do the repair to support that recovery and repair work. Minister, did you want to, from your perspective?
Look, it's a challenging time. Traditionally, at this time of the year, farmers, a lot of them are moving around, so that's an additional complication with the transport links that have been broken. But as they move into winter, of course, they've been planning their feed. A lot of those paddocks are now very wet. They have silt on them. Some of the feed that they would have planned to feed out will be ruined. But look, there's a level of cooperation. There's a positive outlook down there, and we hope that we can source feed for those animals through the winter from other parts of New Zealand.
Will there be any support for North Canterbury? I know that Minister Chris Barfoy was there speaking to Mayor Jacinda Ardern.
Look, at this stage, I think the situation in North Canterbury, I think we're pretty happy with things. They did have some evacuations, but we understand that the river levels in general have dropped markedly. So there is the $100,000 there for the Mayoral Relief Fund. If there is any need for any more welfare, the mayors who are affected can utilise some of those funds.
Is there looking to be a need for any government financial support for roading?
Within the NZTA, we have emergency funding available for events where transport links are affected by a natural disaster, as in this case. So that's not an issue. They should be accessing that to do what they need to in order to get those links back up and running. When we were on the ground today to one of the areas that has been cut off, and one of those key routes that we need to be re-established, work was already underway while we were there, and that is in some quite extraordinary conditions. Water flow still coming through, but they're undertaking that work nonetheless.
Minister, what's your advice for people, like farmers, considering it is moving day to day? What's your advice for them?
Look, and I think there's some advice gone from actually federated farmers around the contracts that might be in place. Look, we just ask that farmers, those who might be sending cows or receiving cows, that they have some level of understanding that it's physically impossible for some of them to meet their contractual obligations. Trucking companies can't literally shift them. So we just hope that the cooperation that is already on the ground down there will be shown across the wider farming sector to deal with these issues.
Anything else?
Sure.
Sure.
What do you make of the next resignation?
Oh, look, as I think's been said by others, just to acknowledge the long service, but other matters as they relate to the basis of his retirement, those are matters for the National Party.
I have a follow-up to that. Matt Smith resigned under well under investigation from Parliamentary Services, and are you aware of any Labour MPs under any kind of investigation?
Oh, look, not in the business of responding or getting into the details of employment matters as they relate to the National Party or any parties generally.
In reference to Labour, though, are you aware of any?
Again, as I say, I wouldn't give commentary on any issues that relate to employment matters generally anyway. I think, our democracy exists for voters to be able to determine whether or not they want their local MPs to stay or go, and that's where that power and that decision making should sit. Voters ultimately get to decide.
First Olympians
Oh, yep.
are arriving in Japan, the Aussie softball team, but it seems like some of the Japanese community are furious that it's going ahead. Should the Olympics be cancelled based on what we've seen?
Oh, those are ultimately the decisions for the Olympic Committee and the hosts. What we've done in New Zealand is just to ensure that we're supporting our athletes to the best of our ability. Things like ensuring that they're vaccinated before departure, and also I know that there are very strict requirements on how they're able to move around or not, as the case may be, within the Olympic Village itself. But as for the Olympics going ahead, ultimately the decision for the committee and the host. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thanks, folks.